Welcome to the Cross Creek On Demand podcast, a podcast for you because God is for you. If you've ever felt like life is chaotic, exhausting, or just impossible to win at, then you're in the right place. We're diving into what Jesus calls the kingdom of heaven, and why the people the world sees as losers are actually the ones who are truly alive. Forget trying harder, competing louder, or controlling everything. Jesus offers a better way to live, steady, whole, and free in the midst of chaos. Today, we explore what it really means to follow him and why losing, in the world's eyes, is actually the path to winning. So, let's talk about it together. Okay, if you had to describe the world right now in just one word, what would it be? For me, it's chaotic. Like the world feels loud, combative, anxious, exhausting. And I don't know if you're like me, but I constantly feel pulled in different directions by causes I'm told should matter. But the more I'm pressured to care about everything, the more worn out and sometimes numb I become. Every day there's something new or expected to be outraged about. And some of these issues are real. Some matter deeply. But the quote-unquote facts we're given usually depend on which side you already agree with. See, winning has become more important than wisdom. Being right seems to matter more than being loving. And finding a way to live together feels hopeless. See, it feels like more people care about winning than about finding a way to live together. It shows up everywhere, in politics, culture, science, even the church. We're told to have a strong opinion, speak louder, take a side, and fight to win. And if you follow Jesus, I think there's an added pressure. Because if you don't speak loudly enough, quickly enough, or aggressively enough, well, then your faith gets questioned. You're not the right kind of Christian. So we're left asking, what matters most to God? What does Jesus truly care about? And how are we supposed to live in a world that's always in conflict? Well, the only solution that actually works is the way of Jesus. Because Jesus doesn't step into our chaos with better arguments. He offers a better way to be human. And nowhere is that clearer than in the Sermon on the Mount. See, this is Jesus' blueprint for a new kind of humanity. If you're a Jesus follower, these are the core teachings of what it means to live under his leadership. And if you're not sure what you believe yet, these are widely considered the most influential words on what it means to be human. So either way, I think they're worth a listen. And most scholars think this sermon records the essential teachings Jesus shared again and again, like his core message. And what's amazing is, he's not giving religious advice. He's not arguing deep theology, and he's not trying to prove himself right. What he's doing is inviting everyone into the kingdom of heaven. It's not just a distant hope, but it's a new reality available right now. See, the kingdom of heaven is God reigning as king in human hearts, restoring what humanity was always meant to be. And he doesn't start with rules. He starts by showing who is invited into his kingdom. Now, a warning before we get into it. What Jesus describes here is deeply different from how the world works. So it's not comfortable. It's not convenient, but it is life-giving. Because Jesus doesn't just give us better religious ideas. He transforms our view of God, the world, others, and ourselves. And yeah, that can be uncomfortable. So first, let's see who Jesus is talking to. Matthew 5, starting at verse 1. One day, as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him and began to teach them. See, Jesus speaks to ordinary people, not religious elites or rulers, but everyday men and women, people who are often overlooked or powerless, people who know they can't fix the world or even themselves. In the world's eyes, these are the losers. But Jesus shatters that and calls them the true winners in God's kingdom. See, Jesus isn't against winning. He redefines it. He shows that real winning in the real kingdom is nothing like what anyone expects. So let's read what Jesus actually says. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. Now, this passage has been misunderstood for centuries because Jesus isn't giving entrance requirements for the kingdom. I mean, this isn't a checklist for spiritual achievement, and it's definitely not instructions on how to be miserable so God will like you. Jesus is announcing who is already experiencing life in the kingdom of heaven. This is what human life looks like when God is actually reigning in someone's heart. Jesus isn't saying, try to become these things. He's saying the people the world thinks are excluded, who have already lost, are not just included, they are at the core of the kingdom. They are the core of the kingdom. See, Jesus completely flips religious expectations upside down. And blessed here doesn't mean easy or comfortable. As writer, theologian Dallas Willard put it, blessed is the highest kind of well being available to human life. In other words, it's a way of living deeply rooted in God's kingdom, steady, whole, and unshaken, whatever your circumstances. And Jesus begins in a shocking place. He says, God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Not the impressive, not the confident, not the people who have life figured out. The kingdom belongs to people who know they need it. People who know they cannot fix themselves or the world. And Jesus starts by saying, if you feel spiritually empty, you are not disqualified. You are exactly who the kingdom is opening up to. And then he says, God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. See, not people who numb out, not people who pretend everything is fine. Kingdom people are honest about brokenness in themselves, in their relationships, and in the world. And Jesus says God moves toward people who refuse to pretend. And then he says God blesses those who are humble, or meek in other translations, for they will inherit the whole earth. And that word, humble or meek, it doesn't mean weak. It means strength that refuses to dominate, power that chooses gentleness. See, in a world where everyone is fighting to control outcomes, kingdom people trust God to set things right. And Jesus makes an outrageous promise. The gentle will ultimately inherit the earth, not the aggressive. He goes on and he says, God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. These are people who ache for the world to be put back together. They despise injustice, cruelty, selfishness, including their own. They want God's goodness to invade real life. And Jesus said that longing is not wasted. God fills people who crave his kind of world. And when this kind of life begins forming inside of someone, it starts showing up in how they treat others. They actually start becoming part of the solution. So, Jesus says, God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Kingdom people refuse to become cynical. They see pain and move toward it instead of away from it. And they don't help because people deserve it. They help because mercy is what they have received from God. As Pastor Andy Stanley said, they do for one what they wish they could do for all. And Jesus says, God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. And this isn't about being perfect. It means having a life that isn't divided between loving God and living image, status, or control. Kingdom people live with one driving question. God, what do you see in me? Then Jesus says, God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. See, not peacekeepers who avoid conflict. Peacemakers step into conflict to bring healing. They do the hard work of reconciliation. Because this is exactly what God did through Jesus, reconciling humanity to himself and to each other. And then Jesus ends with something surprising. He says, God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Think about it. When people actually live this way, it threatens systems built on domination. It threatens identities built on superiority, and it threatens righteousness built on comparison. See, Jesus doesn't offer nice ethics. he announces a rival kingdom. And Jesus is saying something almost impossible to believe and something very dangerous. The people the world assumes have lost are the ones most alive in God's kingdom. The overlooked, the gentle, the honest, the merciful, the peacemakers. These are the core citizens of heaven. And here's what that means. What looks like losing in this world is often the clearest sign you belong to God's kingdom. The world says if you're not loud enough, not fighting hard enough, you're the problem. And sometimes, yes, silence is cowardice. Other times, more noise just adds to the chaos. Jesus doesn't call us to silence or indifference. He gives us something better, a filter for when to speak, why to act, and how to love. It's the Jesus way. See, the world says dominate. Jesus says be gentle. The world says protect your image. Jesus says be pure in heart. The world says crush your enemies. Jesus says make peace. The world says avoid weakness. Jesus says bring your need. See, true change doesn't start with volume. It starts with a change of view. The Jesus way transforms our view of God, the world, others, and ourselves. And the more we see things through his view, the more we start looking like the people Jesus just described. Not to earn his love, but because we are becoming more and more like him. Becoming more and more pictures of what humanity was always meant to be. Whole and confident in the love and care of our Heavenly Father. So, what does all of this mean for us right now, like tomorrow or this week, in real life? Well, it means you don't need to fake strength for God. You don't need to control the world's chaos. If you feel powerless or overwhelmed, if you honestly see what's broken and can't fix it, Jesus says, you're exactly who I'm here for. The kingdom is opening to you. If you feel you're not winning at life, if you feel unseen, if gentleness has cost you, if integrity has cost you, hear this. What looks like losing in this world is often the clearest sign you belong to God's kingdom. And that kind of life, rooted in God, steady in chaos, free from the need to dominate, is the better way to be human. So this week, here's my invitation. Read these verses each day, Matthew 5, verses 1 through 12. Read them each day and ask, what one quality stands out to me? And then, where could I show that quality in a conversation or choice today? Let Jesus redefine what winning means, not by trying harder, not to prove yourself, but by letting him change how you see everything. Like, can you imagine if every person who said they were a Jesus follower, not even the whole world, just Jesus followers, looked like these kingdom people? Like, how much would the noise dissipate? What conflicts would disappear? Who would be seen, loved, protected, and honored? Now, what if your view of winning started to change? What would you worry and stress about? What would stop being a big deal to you? And who would you start seeing, loving, protecting, and honoring? You would begin to experience a life that is steady in chaos, courageous in conflict, and secure in God's love. This is the life in the kingdom we are all invited to experience today. If you are a Jesus follower, this is who you are being made into. And if you're not there yet, Jesus is still inviting you. No matter who you are, you only have to accept his invitation, experience his love, and follow him. See, we are invited to experience the kingdom of heaven in our lives right now.